Hello everybody, we just had a slight change of direction there as you came back to us. If you forgot, if you didn't hear when I said hello, I'm Stef. We got Senzo on camera today, and yes, I was right there. We have these young lions on a termite mound. They've been here since this morning. We don't really know where the moms are at the moment. It's quite possible that moms have left these little guys to go hunting. And it's not uncommon for lions to be left on their own, to be quite honest with you, and sometimes for multiple days, giving rise to the often told belief that lions are abandoned from time to time. And of course, then people must do everything that they can to try and save them. That's not entirely the case. Quite often it's just because moms have had to work quite hard for food. Now, I do owe everybody an apology. We have had a series of technical issues this afternoon, which has left us a bit late getting started today, but better late than never, I suppose. And as soon as the Mara comes back online, we hope that they will join us for this sunset safari today as well. In the meantime, you're stuck with me and you're stuck with these cats, and as far as I'm being told by Louise at the moment, this is day number 20 odd of continual cat sightings, which is really cool actually, because it's this time of the year that we have these cats not moving very much and giving us such viewing pleasure. Now, this is the first time I've seen these Nkuhumas in quite some time. I actually was trying to think this morning, when was the last time I actually saw these lions with cubs, and I can't actually remember. It was definitely more than a year ago. Probably close to about a year and a half ago that I saw the Nkuhumas, at least anyway, from a vehicle. I haven't done a vehicle-based safari in Djuma for almost 2 years now. As weird as that sounds, or at least that's what the memory is. I can't really remember when the last time I did it. Now, don't forget, this is an interactive show, so feel free to ask me as many questions as you can, and don't be shy about these questions. You know, we'll obviously answer the ones that are relevant, and ask them as fast as you can, so that we can get your questions, as many of your questions, answered as possible. It's so typical of a young male lion, already displaying that sort of very laid back, lazy attitude in these afternoon suns. It's not much above 20 degrees centigrade at the moment. I would say it's probably in the region of about 24, 25 degrees centigrade. So very calm, cool afternoon. There's a slight breeze blowing, as you can see from the grass that you're having a look at there. And this young lion got hot enough to lie in the shade come midday probably, and hasn't moved much since then. Whereas the rest of the brothers and sisters are all lying on top of the termite mound. And that is because that is where they get the best view of the surrounding bush. Being young cubs like this, they definitely like to know and react to the approach of potential threats long before they've seen, and give them enough time to create some distance. At this age, other male lions are the biggest threat that they have to worry about, as well as hyena, potentially. I think they're a little bit too big for a big male leopard to try and tackle, but elephant and buffalo will also be a significant threat to them. Laurie, you want to know how many lions are in this pride? Now, Laurie, it's going to be a very difficult question for me to answer, unfortunately, because I know absolutely nothing about the current status of the Nkuhuma pride as it is. Potentially I could ask Louise for some help, or for some of you at least anyway. I've been in Kenya for 6 months, Laurie, and before that I was just doing walking safaris here and never bumped into these guys a lot at all. But Louise has just told me that there's 14 members to this particular pride, and it will be made up mainly of adult females and some cubs, and 9 of them are cubs, and then there's 5 adult females. And you probably find that that's about the carrying capacity for this particular area. usually between 4 and about 6 adult females. In this particular case, there's 5 adult females, and then they can have anywhere up to 6 babies each. So it's a massive amount of lions that can be on any given property at any given time. In this particular case, there are 14 cubs, or 14 young lions, made up of a range of different ages, not all together, and very close. Lions are a contact species, the only social cats in the world, and they will be reliant on one another, not only for eyes and ears, but they'll also rely on one another to help hunt, defend territories. Proud Cat, Mara, you wanted to know how long these lions will wait for their moms. An indefinite amount of time. So the moms will be gone for anything from a couple of hours to a couple of days. At about 2 weeks, though, that these cubs will not start, they won't start wandering, but they will start to be looking very thin and scrawny. And at that point, starvation would become a real problem for them. But it's not uncommon for a couple of days to go by with these lions just lying up like this, conserving energy while mom hunts. And it's unusual for lions not to come and fetch their babies, even if their mother was killed, for instance by a buffalo or by an elephant or by another lion. The other adult female lioness will come back and fetch these cubs. And so it's hardly ever that you find a cub that's uninjured or not sick, being abandoned for too long. Of course, the rule with the pride is once you're an adult, though, if you can keep up, you'll get looked after. If you can't keep up, then stay with the cubs, and if there are no cubs, then sorry for you. That is unfortunately pride law. Some nice silhouettes there and sort of this very bright afternoon sun, I must be honest with you. Now, Riti, you'd like to know what age cubs become independent by? It's a nice question, Riti, because it's different for male and for female. Female cubs become independent, and I mark independence as when they are a beneficial part of the hunting party. In other words, when they can actually add, if not much expertise, but definitely an extra pair of claws and teeth, at about 9 months to about a year and a half. Male lions are something a little bit different in that they grow up and become adults at around about 2 to 2.5 years, so about a year after females. Although they're considered completely adults at about 2.5 years old for both male and female, females definitely become play a more beneficial role in the pride dynamics at a much earlier age than what males do. Males tend to rely on their size and bully their way around carcasses, and it's only when they start to react to their mothers coming back into estrus again, which happens anywhere from about 18 months or so at its earliest to about 36 months or so for their mothers. That's how long the cycle takes if their cubs are successful, if they rear their cubs successfully. And male cubs only really leave the pride once their mothers, or once they start to react to their mothers coming into estrus. The females will chase them out, and then the pride males chase them out. And then they go on an exodus, basically, and a journey for another 2 to 2.5 years before they are strong enough to take over their own pride. And the hope is that is far enough away from their natal pride that inbreeding isn't too much of a problem. Female lioness, they never move away. They will stick within their natal range and within their pride until they die. It isn't uncommon for you to get nomadic females and breakaways. It is common to get breakaways, but it's usually when a pride has gotten too big. And what happens is the sisters will break away and split away and start their own pride, called a breakaway pride. And sometimes you get some tragedy that befalls these lions, and you can get single lioness living on their own as a single lioness breakaway pride. That can sometimes happen. Now, I'm told by Louise that the Mara is on the line at the moment, and Brent is eagerly waiting to say hello. We'll catch up with you in a little bit.
magical, marvelous, fantastic, splendid, beautiful, vast, open Masai Mara in Kenya. My name is Brent Smith. I have Manu on camera today, and we're in the hankering for spotted cats, and one spotted cat in particular, a leopard. So I'm heading all the way down south towards Burungat and Majia Jafu to look for that gorgeous female leopard and her 9-month-old male cub. So we're going to be bundling along. We are probably about halfway there so far, so we've still got some distance to do, and it is quite a stunning evening so far, and hopefully James will be online shortly because he's got a lovely spotted surprise for you up on the escarpment. I found it for him, but we won't tell him that. Shh, don't tell James. I found it. Let's go see what it is.
I am here. That's where I am. Good afternoon, everybody. Slightly subdued in my voice today because there are a lot of people around me. The reason there are a lot of people around me, my name is James Hendry. Good. And the reason there are a lot of people around me is, of course, because just over there in the grass there is a cheetah. A female cheetah, who Fergus tells me is a devourer of oribi, a rare antelope that lives on the slopes here. Now, Palin, we're straight into the questions here. You didn't even bother to greet me, but that's okay. You say, are cheetah, do they not normally hunt in groups? No, they don't. By default, a cheetah female is solitary. So once she reaches adulthood, which this cheetah has, she will live a solitary life unless she's accompanied by cubs. The exception, of course, is males who sometimes form coalitions. Probably about 50% of the time you'll find them in a coalition of 2 or up to 5, as we've learnt over the last few months. But often males are on their own as well. And then they do hunt, but the way they hunt is not quite as cooperative as the lions hunt, for example. They don't set an ambush like lions do. They tend to, I suppose they hunt a bit more like wild dogs, where the first one to grab onto a piece of prey then gets helped out by the others. And so, yes, they can hunt as groups, but not as in a sort of, what should we say, one hesitates to use the term coordinated way, in the same way that lions do, but there is an element of cooperation there. And if you're wondering how on earth Palin managed to ask us a question, well, the mystery is about to be solved. You can talk to us using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. Otherwise, there's another way. Oh yes, you can use the chat section in the YouTube broadcast that you happen to be watching. We'll do our best to get any questions or comments that you have, and of course one of the most exciting things of doing a live safari is talking to people live. So please feel free to send through any questions you like. Now, I believe that apart from this cheetah, that is not the only animal out here, and apart from Brent and I, well, we aren't the only animals out here either. Scott, with his very bristly beard, has managed to find himself a beefalo. And back with us because Scott has got no audio. I suspect perhaps his bristling beard needs just a little bit further combing, and then he'll be able to speak through it and you'll be able to hear what Scott has to say. Anyway, our plan for this afternoon is to sit with this cheetah for the next little while. She looks quite full to me, so I don't think she's necessarily going to get up and go on the hunt, and so we won't probably be with her the whole afternoon, and there doesn't seem to be a great deal about or around here that she might want to hunt. Now, in case you're wondering, our objective out here is twofold. One, of course, is to deliver the scheduled broadcast. That's what we're doing now. But of course, also during the season that we're here in the Mara, it is to find what we call the unscheduled action, which would be hunting, I suppose. But now, as the herds have retreated, it will be other short stories that might be interesting. Elephants coming down to the water, for example. Buffalo attacking cheetah. That's very unlikely to happen. But those sorts of short stories, that would be interesting. And so that's the sort of objective of what we're doing at the moment. And so in addition to being in the scheduled broadcasts, we will be out quite a lot out of scheduled times, and then we'll broadcast on nature's schedule. Jason, you're wondering what the weather's been like recently. It depends on how recent you mean, Jason. About an hour ago, it was hot and very pleasant. About 5 minutes ago, it became quite cloudy, and there's a chilly wind blowing in, and as per usual, when Fergus and I are out here, there's the odd spattering of rain. So, it's definitely getting hotter, Jason, over the last, they say that August is the coldest month here. I think I would agree with that. September was a bit warmer, and certainly in the last week or so, it's definitely become a little bit warmer during the hottest parts of the day. So certainly the Mara does seem to be warming up. But the rain in the afternoons shows very little sign of dissipating, which is very interesting. Because as I've mentioned to many of you before, well, the long rains you'll read end in the middle of July. Well, this has been a catastrophic failure of information this year. Certainly when one of our directors said to me, or said to one of us, when we were bemoaning the rain covers, she said, well, of course the rain stopped now. That was 3 months ago. It's quite windy still, and so it's pretty good hunting conditions here. We'll probably knock about just for, I'm going to say, another half an hour or so with this leopard, cheetah, and then we'll press on away from here and see what else we can find. Now, it is a great pleasure, of course, that Stefan Winterboer is back in South Africa on drive, and so I'm going to hand you back to him in exactly 2 seconds.
Welcome back all the way to sunny South Africa for this afternoon safari, and I hope that you were enjoying whatever Brent had to say. It's different here, the green and the brown of the bush. I've had to obviously leave that lion sighting for now. It is the only lion sighting in this particular area, and so it has a lot of attention. And unlike the Mara, which has relatively free or open sightings where basically as many cars as the area can take and view at any given time, this particular area has a restriction on the amount of cars, and it's to reduce stress in this environment. The bush is very thick and the trees are very dense, and so to have a lot of cars crashing through here is not a good thing. Whereas in the Mara, it's something slightly different. It's very open there and the grass is very short, and you can have a lot more cars there without doing much damage or influencing animal behavior at all, which is not too much of a problem. It gives us a time to look around and see what else is going on. Now, Charles, you wanted to know if this is really live. And you know, Charles, actually that's the first time anyone's ever asked me that in 3 years of doing this. Charles, we're 100% live. So this is happening right now. We're coming to you from South Africa, right in the Kruger National Park. And Brent, who was just on camera, is coming to you out of Kenya for 3,500 miles north of here, out of the Mara Triangle National Park. Isn't that amazing? And from the picture coming in at the camera right there to wherever you are on the planet's anywhere from about 20 to 40 seconds old. So you're seeing things pretty much as they're happening right now. We're a couple of hours from sunset, and this particular safari will extend into the evening, where I will use the light to find some nocturnal creatures. And what was I going to say? Kenya is about an hour ahead of us. In actual fact, exactly an hour ahead of us. And so Brent will be heading into the dark before I do. And you'll see a gorgeous sunset twice an hour apart from one another. Hopefully on today's safari, unless there's a lot of clouds around where he is at the moment, which is quite a common thing actually. As you'll see, here we have winter, and it's the end of our dry season, end of winter. We definitely have a winter and a summer here, whereas it's coming to the end of the dry season in Kenya at the moment, but no winter there. What I'm looking at is a big eagle in the top of the tree. So let's see. We'll first try and identify it from here. And when you have a look at a big eagle like that with a brown head and a white chest, it can only be one of two. And the black-breasted snake eagle or martial eagle, the difference would be the feathers on the legs and the colors of the eye. So let's have a careful look and see what I can see here. So I see a little crest on top of the head. I see a bright yellow eye. Are we seeing feathers on the legs? They don't look feathered, hey? But that is unmistakable, that little crest and that yellow eye. That is a martial eagle, the largest eagle that we found out here. Now I do want to point your attention to that back claw that's busy hanging out the bottom underneath that horizontal branch that this eagle is sitting on at the moment. You see how massively developed that claw is. And that is used with great force to pierce through the body cavities and the skulls in some instances, especially monkeys. And you can imagine on a small little monkey that weighs 10 pounds or so, something like that dagger coming through your skull. And they can grip hard enough with their legs to break bones in your arms. All the force is in those legs. An absolutely enormous eagle. The martial eagle. If you translate its genus and species name, it's the warlike eagle. And it's given that name because of that very fierce gaze that it has. Now this is a road that's a little bit closer there, and I think what we're going to try and do is see if we can get closer, because to be honest with you, these birds make for magnificent picture opportunities. So a bit far away from where we are now, but let's see if before it flies away we can get a bit closer. Now, birds operate within a very narrow, birds of prey operate within a very narrow weight band. Too heavy, they don't fly anywhere. Too light, and they end up being a bit wild and never ever sit down. And too light still, and they end up with no energy and they can actually die. In this particular case, I'm hoping that this bird has had a nice decent meal and is just catching the last rays of the sun before heading out. Now let's see if we can get a little bit closer here. This is a beautiful view, and it's going to give us the sun full on in the face of this particular martial eagle, and you're going to be able to see that piercing yellow gaze. Let's just get you into a nice place. There we go. Hold on, and that's going to give you, and from here you can actually see the dots on its chest. Come on, look at us. Get ready with your screenshots, everybody. No, don't go anywhere. Are you going to fly? Yeah, you're going to turn around from us. That isn't. There you go. Take a photo. Bang. All that lovely yellow eye. Hopefully you've all got it. Alrighty. We're going to sit here with this eagle a little bit and see if it... oh, look at that. Beautiful. There we go. Have a look at that. Now, true eagles have got feathers on their legs, and as you can see from this particular angle, although the feathers are against this bird's legs, you can actually see all the way down. Oh, that's beautiful. Kellen, you wanted to know if this could lift a 2-year-old child. Absolutely, Kellen. This eagle could and has taken prey up to 35 kilograms, which is... They won't be able to... Well, hello everyone. I am told you were rushed off Stef's vehicle as he was midway through answering one of your questions. Apologies for that, but at least you've come across to a very beautiful scene with those elephants and some rays of the sun. My name's Scott Dyson. I'm teamed up with Jandre on camera and really looking forward to this afternoon's adventure with all of you guys. Our plan is to head deep into the southern reaches of the Mara Triangle and get into the area of the Purungat Bridge, where we are hoping to find some migrating herds, the last of them that are possibly going to be in that area. Another thing I'm hoping for is that we could get lucky and see a crossing. I'm told opposite an area called Lookout Hill, which I'll show you in a few moments, there were some wildebeest that were massing at one of the crossing points yesterday. They decided not to cross, but who knows, maybe they will be thinking about crossing now or later this evening. Isn't this beautiful though? We've seen a lot of elephants this afternoon. We've covered 25 kilometers exactly so far, which is about 18 miles, heading south, like I say, from camp towards an area where we can mix up the scenery. Myself and Jandre haven't been down here for a long time, so we're keen to do a bit of a checkup. And I think Brent is also going to be coming down here, again hoping that we're going to catch up with the remaining herds of wildebeest that might be lurking in the southern reaches of the reserve. It's a beautiful, beautiful afternoon, quite windy. Possibility of rain later. There's a lot of clouds building, but we've been lucky. The last 3 nights we've had no rain, which makes our lives a lot easier. Isn't that absolutely beautiful? So you guys are getting spoiled today. There's, I'm told, 4 vehicles taking you all out. So just goes to show that even though we were technically only supposed to put out 2 feeds from the Mara this afternoon, we're also excited to explore and share this area with you that 3 of us decided to head out. Marvelous. Well, we're going to head on for 2 reasons. You aren't sending through enough questions to us, and we've got a long way to go. So let's keep moving. And I'd just like to show you where Lookout Hill is. That is where we are going to be going. It's at about 11 o'clock there, Jandre. There we go. So we are going to, that's on the eastern side of the Mara River. And just below that, I'm told there was quite a few wildebeest yesterday thinking of crossing. It doesn't look like there are any just there now. Who knows, maybe they're down by the river, but we've got quite a long way to go to get there. And the good news is you're going to head back to James and his cheetah.
I wonder where Scott is going, everybody. We have not gone anywhere, of course, because here we find ourselves with this cheetah, who I don't think has been named just yet. I'm not going to suggest that we try and name her, because almost certainly the cheetah researchers will do that for us, and then we will take that name on, or perhaps the guides of the area will do that. Chris, you're wondering this cheetah has cubs. I'm going to say almost certainly not. It's very seldom that cheetah, like lions, will rest up away from their cubs if they have them. They will from time to time, but because of the extra protection needed by little cheetah cubs, you'll find, I think, that unless the cheetah is seriously exhausted from hunting or something like that, she'll almost certainly go back to them as soon as she's ready to rest. So I don't think so. That's one of the reasons I don't think so. The other reason, of course, is that she doesn't appear to be lactating at all. She is very full. We're going to spend another 5 minutes with her, I think, and then we're going to head off and see if we can't find something slightly more mobile. Riti, good question. Difficult to say. We want to know the difference between a male and a female cheetah. Well, I mean, if they lift their tails and they're walking, then it's very obvious. But unlike with leopards, where the female is noticeably smaller than the male, she's about 1/3 smaller than him. Well, no, sometimes even half the size of the male. In fact, often half the size of the male. You know, with a bigger head, a male's got a bigger head, he's got a thicker neck, he's got a slightly more grizzled appearance quite often. With the leopards, cheetah are not the same. If you were to see this female next to a male, standing next to him, you'd see that he is noticeably bigger. He's taller, but he's slightly more thick set as well, but not when you see them on their own like this. So the only reason I really know that she's a female is because, well, A, I was told, and B, I've seen behind her tail, so I know that she's a female. But a male would be extremely difficult to distinguish if you didn't know the cheetahs of an area, if you just saw them lying like this. Their heads look very similar unless you see them next to each other. So it's really not as obvious as it is in many mammal species, the leopard being the obvious and most commonly made comparison. You can see that she's very sleepy, however. And I think cheetah probably slightly less opportunistic than something like lion or leopard. And so with a full belly like this, even if the opportunity to kill came about and wasn't, well, if it was very easy, then she'd probably take it. But because of the increased risks of hunting, running at 100 kilometers an hour or 60 miles an hour across any kind of unsmooth track, if you like, carries enormous risks with it, and so she will be far less prepared to take risks hunting than her larger cat cousins if she's full. So I don't think she's going to do a huge amount. Hello Fox, you're wondering if the cheetah's full or pregnant. I think she's full. She might be pregnant, but I think from the way she's breathing it tells me that she's just eaten. That enormous belly on her is also slightly too far forward for it to be, I think, some youngsters sort of waiting to be born. It's not impossible that she's pregnant. She could indeed be carrying little cubs, but that is not the cause of her fat belly at the moment, or not the major cause, I don't think. Sushan, interesting question. You say that, or you ask, do cheetah reproduce more slowly than, say, leopards or lions? No, they don't. I think they reproduce probably at roughly the same speed, maybe even slightly more or faster than lions. A lioness will normally give birth every sort of 2 to 2.5, maybe 3 years, whereas I think a cheetah you'll find in good conditions where competition is not particularly fierce could potentially give birth slightly more regularly than that. And I think the reason for that is that their cubs get taken out probably more often than the bigger predators' cubs. Leopards about the same as lions, really, maybe slightly shorter birthing interval. If you were wondering about the noise and the sort of sound of engines, and you may have seen 1 or 2 vehicles, it is of course because we are in an area filled with tourists who, well, due to their enthusiastic what should we say, dispensation for nature, they are the reason, of course, that the Masai Mara exists. Without their money, we would not be here enjoying these sightings. Right, we are going to leave this cheetah now and go and see if we can't find something else. We might pop back and see if she does something just after it gets dark. What I really find odd about this time of year, of course, is how green it is. And the reason it's so green is because we've had so much rain. So now I'm going to hand you back to the golden brown grey grasses of Djuma with Stefan Winterboer.
We've got a little squirrel in the tree there. That is the southern tree squirrel, and one of the cutest things that you'll ever see. Just have a look at that face. Now, my wife has brought up 5 of these rascals, and out of all the pets I've ever owned, bird, hamsters, fish, snakes, scorpions, dogs, cats, you name it, I must be honest with you that these squirrels make for the best pets. They're full of life, and it's just given me such a unique insight into... Oh, and just let me qualify that. We don't buy these little things. They're all rescued from houses where other people's dogs and cats have killed parents of the baby squirrels, and then the baby squirrels are then orphaned, and my wife is on a list of people in the local area who then put their hand up to say they'll rear these little squirrels and release them. And so far, out of the 5, we've lost 2 and released 3. And they grow up pretty quick. You're looking at about 6 months to 9 months, and then they're gone out of your house. And from babies where you're waking up every 2 hours to feed them with a bottle, exactly the same as a human child, to 9 months when they basically rule your house for a couple of weeks. Have a look at this. Just this sun behind us gives us a nice opportunity to look at all these birds. That is a Burchell starling, and you'll see when he turns towards us he has a dark eye and not the bright orange eye of the other species of starling that we get here. I've gone completely blank on what the other starling is. It is the most crazy thing. I don't quite know what it is. My short-term memory, my long-term memory is all going for a ball lately, and I don't actually know what the cause of it is. But what you're having a look over there is definitely the Burchell starling. The other starling is the lesser blue-eared starling. The greater blue-eared starling. That is the other one that we get here. And I don't know, these ones don't shine as much as what the blue-eared starlings do, but they've got a deeper iridescence. Now what that means is that there's either a thinner or a thicker layer of keratin over the feathers, which creates that deep blue iridescence rather than the light blue of the greater blue-eared. Iridescence being that sheen that you see, that oiled look on those feathers. Oh. And the reason why he's sitting at the top of that branch is specifically to make his feathers shine. If you have a careful look, you'll see that there's a lot of dung on that branch, just on the left-hand side. And that is from him depositing it there. He must spend a considerable amount of time here, preening himself and looking pretty. And basically, that is exactly what he's doing. He's standing in the sun is glinting and gleaming off of his feathers, and making him look stunning to all the ladies in the area, or at least he hopes, at least. Now he comes down, he's going to sit on the ground and peck at something. There against the ground, he's also looking brilliantly sleek and very typical starling walk. They're insectivorous birds and they'll actually attack a wide variety of prey, including scorpions and massive spiders. I've even seen one with a snake once before. This is typical feeding behavior. They'll walk around. It's quite a long-legged gait, and then peck at things from side to side and hopefully uncover an unlucky insect. I like them. They're precocious birds, cheeky things, looking fantastic in the sunlight. Senzo doing a brilliant job of keeping him in the frame as this bird looks around for something to eat. This time of the year, insect pickings are very slim, hence this bird having to do a considerable amount of walking around to actually find something. Let's see, there we go. Dived in there, looks like he missed it though. Having a quick chat to anybody who's listening. That is lovely. Look at those long legs. Now when you're tracking these guys, they've got a long toe. Their back toe is almost double the length of any of their other toes. They're 3 forward-facing toes. And there's almost a hand span between their tracks. That's how long that bird's legs were. There's almost a hand span between the back of the front of the one leg and the back of the other leg. And when you're tracking them walking down the road, long back toe, three toes facing forward, 1 toe facing back. It's almost double the length, and then a long stride is very typical of the Burchell starling. Burchell, of course, having named a few things after himself in his I don't quite know what to say in the arrogance, but in his whatever you want to call it. Now, Kathy, you wanted to know, when do we think the woodland kingfisher are going to be back? Kathy, generally speaking, they are back by December. Sometimes it's the first week of December, sometimes it's the last week of November. You get a few eager beavers that come in late October and early November. But they'll start to trickle through this area in about November. Let's call it the 15th of November, and then we should start seeing them around about the first week of December is when guarantee that we'll have at least one woodland kingfisher back. And then they'll stick around. They're one of the last birds to go away, and then they fly into Central Africa, not quite into Kenya, although there's one or two hanging around, but definitely into the wetter, more equatorial parts of Central Africa, a little bit further west of where we have our camp in the Mara. Sorry, won't you repeat Paula's question? Are the starlings also migratory birds? Paula wanted to know. Paula, not these particular ones, not the one that you were just having a look at with me now, but the violet-backed starling is definitely a migratory bird, and the wattled starling is not a migratory bird, but it changes so dramatically. It goes from having pretty drab coloured feathers and not hanging around in flocks to hanging around in these fairly large flocks. So you'd think it's migratory, but it's not. The only starling that I know of that's migratory here is the violet-backed starling. That bird that you're having a look at over there is one of the more camouflaged and larger of the birds here. That is a black-bellied bustard. This was a bit of a tongue twister for me. Black-bellied bustard. And you also get the red-crested bustard here as well. This one is the black-bellied. You can see the black belly sticking out of the back, and very, very good camouflage on the back. And that is because they nest in scrapes on the ground. And what a scrape is, it's basically a nest made by scraping away the vegetation. And then the female incubates her eggs by sitting on them, and of course needs to stay as hidden as possible. And that is where that beautiful camouflage on the back of her feathers comes from. And you can see just with the grass and the sticks in the background how easily she would fit in if that was, if you didn't know that there was a bird there. Senzo showing you, when you blur it just a little bit, the edges of that bird become almost indistinguishable. And very, very good camouflage. See what's going to happen. Are you going to call? Oh. So basically that call that bird's doing now has just discounted the fact that this is a black-bellied bustard and has turned it into a red-crested bustard. Holy smokes, today I'm getting it wrong. So that call tells you that it was a red-crested bustard and not a black-bellied bustard, which has got a significantly different call. Now I'm going to show you how easy it is from the back to actually mistake this, so bear with me here while I try and redeem a little bit of my reputation here. If you wouldn't mind having a look here for me, please, Senzo. So here is the red-crested bustard, the one that we've been looking at right now, and here is the bird that I confused it with. And as you can see from the back, they are near identical, with the exception of, and I should have known it, the white stripe down the center of the feather there. But other than that, they are virtually identical birds, with the exception of their very different calls. The black-bellied bustard making a very different call to the red-crested one. France, you wanted to know if your pitmayfro has started to call yet. The pitmayfros being the red-chested cuckoos, they haven't started to call yet, no. They will arrive probably, although they are in Kenya, which makes it a little bit more difficult for me to judge. Although Louise has just told me now that Tristan heard one yesterday here, which is very early. Although I suppose it's already almost October, you know. First rains have fallen, so not uncommon for them. Oh, it is October today, I'm being told. Wow, you know what, maybe I should just stop talking today. It's one of those days where everything just seems to be going pear-shaped. Let's have a look at another bustard. We can see from the front now that beautiful chest coming out now, which they used to display to one another. So just to answer your question there, Tristan did hear a red-chested cuckoo yesterday, a pit mayfro. They get their name from their call, which sounds like they're saying pit mayfro. Wow, that's a striking bird. Beautiful. Now, if we look very carefully at the head, let's see if we can see the crest. I've never in my life seen the red crest on a red-crested Korhaan. They have to lift that brown cap for the red feathers to come out, and they only do that when the males are displaying heavily at one another. But maybe we're lucky and we could get a glimpse of those red feathers. But this is just a beautiful sighting of this bird. So often these birds with these very cryptic camouflage, maybe we can see it there. If they scrape the head again, we'll go close and see if she can scrape open, or he can scrape open his crest for us. And be very quick on your screens there to get a picture of the red crest on a red-crested bustard. Is one of those moments a lot of birders wait an entire lifetime for. Very carefully combing through the grasslands here. We're very quick to dart up a grasshopper, an unsuspecting grasshopper, or some termites. Another insectivorous bird. Isn't that black belly just absolutely fantastic? Yeah, nice view of the legs. Unlike the starling, this particular bird only has 3 forward-facing toes, with the 4th toe having reduced in size and has climbed up the leg a little bit. They've got one, it just doesn't register in their tracks, and it's because this bird hardly ever perches at all. You may be able to catch a glimpse. It does have 3 forward-facing toes and one backwards. She's found herself a termite colony now, and giving us a fantastic view of her entire black belly at the moment. And you can see that the lack of iridescence on her belly is unlike the starling, who's also got black feathers, so completely melanin infused to saturation, but without the thick layer of clear keratin over the top. It is not iridescent. It doesn't shine. It doesn't have that gloss. Now the call again. Close on the head, on the back of the head. Let's see if he fluffs up his crest. Oh, that is beautiful. No crest just yet. Yeah, that was absolutely, even there you could see that gular sac that they used to enhance and amplify the sound. You saw that was inflated and deflated very quickly while he was making his call. Now, as the season hots up, these calls will intensify, and then they will actually jump into the air at the end of the call and do this backwards spinning roll down to the earth, the last second flaring out and landing. And quite a sight to see. They do that for a couple of weeks and then they stop again. Kitty Bang Bang, you wanted to know if female red-crested Korhaans have the red crest. That's actually a good question. I don't actually know. Let me go and have a look. They're so similar, these Korhaans, to one another, you know. Let me just see. I doubt it. Buff cheeks. The female, let's see here. Crown brown flecked white. Not barring. No, it doesn't say anything about that. It just talks about the chevrons. Male's crest raised in display. So males have a crest. It doesn't say anything about the females having the crest. I'm hoping that he raises it so that we can see it at least once in this particular sighting. I hope you guys are all standing still ready with your fingers on those snapshots. Hey, come on, do your call and flare up that thing. Wow, these feathers are beautiful. Large eye. Generally nocturnal bird. Look at that. I think what's happening is the fact that there's not that many insects around, and I think they need to feed often. Have a look at that foot structure now. You can see it in the open sand there. Very clear. It's the 3 toes with that tiny little vestigial toe. What are you seeing there? Now, this is such a nice sighting of this. You know, it's very rare that you get to sit and enjoy a sighting in the open of these particular birds. They definitely are common here. They're not an uncommon bird, but to see this bird in this type of environment, in the open, where we can share it calling and have this beautiful sunlight on these feathers, where you can get a good look at how fantastic they are, is actually quite rare. The bird now is going to be moving off into the thick color, into the thick grass cover, and will virtually disappear as soon as she goes, or he goes. Here we go, one last thing. Come on, flare it up. No, still no crest. Oh, we'll have to leave that for a different day. Alright, we're going to be sending you 3,500 miles north this time, and to Scott, who's waiting with something interesting to show you.
I think Stef's made a mistake there. First of all, I didn't realise Scott was as far north as the Sudan, so that's quite interesting. He must have driven very fast out of camp today. And I am not Scott, of course, I am James. So Scott of the Sudan is clearly perhaps trawling the sud to see if he can find some white-eared cob. We're sitting here, of course, with some, I think, rather skinny-looking elephants in the Masai Mara. And they are eating grass, as is their wont. Now, we were told a little while back that when the wildebeest disappeared and the zebra wafted off down to the south, the residents, so-called, of this area would make their way back into the plains. And one of the things that apparently are seen far more away from migration season are the elephants. Well, here are some elephants, and I definitely think that since my return back to the Mara, that was after my little leave that I had back in South Africa, I think that there are more elephants on these plains. I don't think that they are I'm not sure that they necessarily hid from the wildebeest, but I think they go and spend a bit more time up in the escarpment regions, and they sort of just try and get away from the mad holiday rush that takes place here. And I suspect you'll find that these elephants eat a lot more in the way of grass than the ones do down in a place like Djuma, and that is simply because there is so much more grass to eat, and they don't have to eat logs and trees. And I also think that's why their tusks are perhaps slightly longer and more sharp than the ones down at Djuma, and not also... Sorry. A bit of a frog there. And also, I think that's probably why the tusks have developed to be so much thinner, I think, and less stubby than the ones that are in use in the Kruger for constantly peeling away bark. Now, we have a question from somebody whose name is Cheese Potato. Well, Cheese Potato, you want to know when is the migration season? Well, the migration never really ends, but it comes into this area. In fact, it definitely never ends. It's continuous, but it comes into this area normally around the beginning to, or somewhere around the middle of July. This year it came around the 11th of July. Well, when the first wildebeest herds came into this area, and then they normally depart sort of around the middle of October. This year in the Triangle, they've seen a much shorter migration season, so instead of the sort of average 120 days or so, they've had 90 days, which is, well, as you can work out if you like mathematics, 25% shorter than the last one. So that is quite interesting. And quite why that should have been the case, well, no one really knows. They will tell you that it's because of the weather patterns in the area. It might be, but I think that the amount of rain we've had here is so vast that it surprises me that they aren't still here. And because of that, I think they may well be back here. All right, we're going to move on from these elephants and see if we can try and emulate what Scott Dyson has just achieved with his latest find.
So Bex in the final control has done some crafty maneuvers. She took the risk of just telling me that I'm live. We're in a low signal area, but now that she stopped talking to me on the radio, our picture should stay clear. So I'm not going to be able to answer any of your questions, but we are going to be able to show you this beautiful pride of lions. There's a total of 3 adult lioness, one of which you can see on the left over there. She's a brute. She looks in great condition. Yes, you. She's been holding her nose up into the wind, possibly smelling some prey. And there's 6 sub-adults that look to be about 6 to 8 months old, dotted around, one of which when we arrived was trying to dig out possibly a warthog out of a termite mound. We'll show you that one shortly. It's on the other side of the vehicle. But how cool is that? We just bumped into these guys. There was some topi looking at them. I wonder if the topi are still... Yeah, let's show the topi. The topi are still looking at us and the lion. So it's that topi over there that helped us to spot these lion. And as you can see, well, you can't see that it's perched on a termite mound, but that is how it is elevated, keeping a beady eye on these potential problem animals. Oh, photobomb. And then the other lion that was digging was this one over here, and there's a hole on the other side of this termite mound. And what you may find has happened is that I think these lions have been here all day, and they may have kept warthog in that burrow the whole entire day. So I'm guessing the lions may have arrived here early in the morning when it was maybe still dark, and tried to dig the warthog out of their hole. And of course, if you were a warthog in a burrow and you knew there were some lions waiting outside, you might forego food for the day in the knowledge that there's a chance a lion might jump on your back. So that's what the scene is here. Sadly, because it is a bit of a low signal area, it wouldn't make sense for us to stay here. Chandra is going to show you one of the other sub-adults over there. So there's a few of them all dotted around. Wonderful. Hello, Tanith in Canada. You would like to know which cat has got the longest whiskers. And it's a good question. I'm actually not 100% sure, but my guess would be a leopard. I don't think cheetah have got very long whiskers, and I think leopards are in general probably a little bit longer than lions. But I could be wrong. If anybody would like to double check, I would appreciate that. Now I'll take a look here. We've got one sneaky little lion. Is the pole in the way? Oh no, it's perfect. Kind of, no. Well, you can see this little cub has kind of crept up on us, but sadly the structural support which holds our roof up is a little bit in the way. I'm very glad that support is there because it allows us to sleep on the roof, which is a new addition. And it's just my vehicle that has been rooftop sleeping friendly thus far, but Jamie's and Brent's are going to shortly be fixed up as we tweak and modify our vehicles to turn into basically a mobile hotel, so we can live comfortably, spending hours out here, so that we make sure we can get you guys into front seat position for any awesome events that unfold. Speaking of which, it wouldn't make really a whole deal of sense for us to stay here, because if we see something, we have a strong chance of not being able to show you. So I think we are going to head off. As wonderful as it would be to stay with these lions, we are going to head out and see what else we can find. The beauty of the Mara is that there are so many lions around. Oh, big yawn, screenshots. Oh, not a big yawn. That was one of the smallest Johns I think I've ever seen. And for those of you who don't take screenshots, I would urge you to start doing it. And once you've started taking a few snaps, and you can get a little basic editing suite and play with your photos between the safaris. It's a good way to document what you guys see along the road with us, as well as a nice hobby. We also love looking through the Twitter feeds and all of your screenshots that you've edited. So for those of you who do, thank you and well done. For those of you who don't, best you get involved. Marvelous. Just going to keep an eye on this cub as we head off, because it was a little bit inquisitive. I thought it might follow the vehicle, but it is not following us. It is, the cheeky little thing. We're watching you. Try and get a Chandra. So that's the one sneaking up on us, and we're going to be sending you.
Welcome back. And we've just come to the Treehouse Dam area. There was a leopard seen here this morning, and this time of the day is when leopards start to move around, and the bush will start to react to these animals as they're moving here. You'll get birds making alarm calls, francolin, drongos, even things like kingfishers, and monkeys as well. And the dead giveaway would be a squirrel or a monkey chattering at the moment. Now, I do have to apologize for ripping you away from the Mara like that. Where Scott was in a relatively poor signal area, and it was just a matter of time before it got too bad for Scott's signal to reach the receivers, and that you came down to us. It happens from time to time. It's one of those things that bringing you a live show brings with it, as every now and again the signal seems to go AWOL, gets reflected by a particularly shiny leaf or some moisture in the atmosphere. Who knows what the million different types of reasons there are for a signal not working so well. This just to me is sort of such a beautiful scene, because this is what the dry season is in the Kruger National Park. This is my memory as a child of dry bushveld, green pans, algae-filled pans, and just sticks. Not many leaves around at the moment. This lovely brown color. Jamie, you want to know what my favorite thing is about being back at Djuma? I think exactly what you're looking at right now. I like this time of year. It's not my favorite time of year. My favorite time of the year is January, followed very closely by May. But October definitely has a feeling to it. There's an energy around it. A lot of predator activity. This isn't one. This is something that we rarely see. That is a common or grey duiker, one of the dwarf antelope that we find out here. It looks like a female. She doesn't have any horns on her head, although she also looks quite pregnant, I must be honest with you. Not much is known about the gestation period of duiker. About 3 months or so. But some of the earliest books that I read said anything from 6 months to a year. A very primitive antelope. This is the southernmost range of this particular group of antelope, the duikers. They're very common. They're the most common antelope species in equatorial rainforest. And there the speciation is amazing. There's many, many different species of grey duiker. Let me show you quickly what I'm talking about. So over here we only find one, but in the rest of Africa you find a lot. Let me show you what I mean by a lot. 367, so I'll be with you in just 1 second. So they've got their own paragraph in this particular book. And have a look here as we start to go around. Of particular note this area here. That is the equator, so that dotted line there is the equator, and the pink says where it comes from. So I'm going to... That's the blue duiker, the smallest antelope that we find. And you've got these funny looking forest duiker. Get some fairly large duiker as well. And as you can see from here, that's all Central Africa. Look at that on the zebra duiker. Wouldn't that be something fantastic to see? Oh, once again, Equatorial Africa. Look at this guy's funny crest on his head. This is the black duiker, or the black and the Abbott's duiker. And the yellow-backed duiker. Ogilby's duiker. You ever heard of that name? Ogilby. Cephalophus Ogilby. Bizarre name. And then Gentix duiker. It's also another fantastic duiker, isn't it? Up to 80 kilograms. It's 160 pounds. That's big. That's bigger than an impala. So that's all the duikers that you get. It's quite interesting, eh? Now, those are all found in Equatorial Africa. Here you only find the grey duiker, and then you find the blue duiker in the rainforest as well. Stephen, you'd like to know what the difference is between a gemsbok and an oryx. Stephen, there's no difference between a gemsbok and an oryx. An oryx is just another name for a gemsbok, or the other way around. Outside of South Africa, oryx are called oryx. Inside South Africa, they're lovingly called gemsboks. It's just a local common name for them. Let me see if I can show you a picture of them while we sit here in the sun. 4:39. I'm enjoying the sun. A couple of months from now, we're not going to be able to do this. We'll be hiding away from the sun. So there you go. There's the southern oryx, or gemsbok, as you can see from the name there. There you go. And this is this magnificent antelope there. Easily one of my favorite of all the antelopes. We don't find them in this particular area, unfortunately. They're desert creatures, and so they don't occur in the Kruger National Park. They're not too difficult to find in the Central Kalahari National Park. Many of them there, and very, very beautiful animal to see. All right, we're going to be sending you off to James, and we're going to carry on looking for this leopard that went missing in this area.
Leopard indeed that Stef is looking for, and leopard that we might find over here where we find ourselves, on the fringes of a woodland, which I'll probably have to stop and show you, because otherwise, given the nature of this road, you will, well, feel quite ill if I don't. There we are. Okay, and then, just up ahead of us, on the bush, there is a little bird. Let's have a look at what little bird it is. Oh, there's a very nice picture of the roof flap that I failed to put up earlier. Can you see the little bird, Fergus? Do you see it? Yes, you do. Excellent. It is a cisticola of some description. What a beautiful little bird. Let me just quickly see if I can see which one it is. Isn't he lovely? And I don't know if you can hear his call. He's going... Now, of course, the pectoral patched one, it could be. I don't think it is the pectoral patched one. I don't think it's yellow enough, and I think its head is too very nicely sort of orange. I'm just playing its call. Oh, it could be. Don't think so though. Let's keep looking. No. Ooh, red pate cisticola, is that possible? No, not found here. It has got a red pate though, doesn't it? It's one of these little ones. Ooh, winding. Ooh, hang on a second, let me play this one. No. Yes, it is. It is the winding cisticola. There we go. Winding cisticola, sorry. Not winding. Winding cisticola. Excellent. That's a new one for me. I wonder how many of you still keeping your bird lists have got the winding or winding cisticola thereupon. Rebecca, did you have the winding cisticola on your bird list? I bet you didn't. No. You did not. Well, that's very nice that you appreciate my asking you. I'm so pleased. I hope many of you are now enjoying the sight of the winding cisticola winding its way into the night time. Ooh, what is that, Fergus? It is a fast-moving bird. Ooh, it is a swallow. That you have attempted to try and track a swallow at this stage of your life is most impressive, and most you ought to be heartily congratulated. I wasn't in fact looking for buried treasure under there. I was watching my monitor, which is just here, because I couldn't see what Fergus could see, you see. Good. On we go. Liam's favourite trick in the world, of course, is to not tell you he's brought the camera back and just leave it on you while you are, you know, I don't know, scratching in an appropriate part of your body, or staring at the monitor like this, or climbing out of the car, or do something inappropriate. And then he doesn't say anything until the director says the camera's on you, at which point you feel dreadful and you start thinking back as to what you were doing and whether you have in the last little while done anything inappropriate. Well, at least that's how it feels for me. Now what we're going to do from here is to go round to some lions that were over there, and if we can find them there, then we'll sit with them for a while. Otherwise we'll probably go back to the cheetah. Now Keely Hart, you say that bird was number 263 for you. That is a lot of birds. I'm assuming that includes the includes Djuma. 263 is a good return, I think. The winding cisticola, winding away. There's a batelier flying there that I'm not going to try and show you because it's gone into the trees and disappeared, and this road is just quite phenomenally uncomfortable. Don't you find, Fergus? It's very uncomfortable. Yes, thank you very much. Right, we're going to go back to Stef shortly. He has got 30 seconds to catch up with time in East Africa. He's working sort of 30 seconds behind us, and he's going to show you a sunset, and hopefully the sun will not have set by the time we go across to him, which will be in precisely 6 seconds from around about now, which means that you're going across to him now.
This area to visit one of my favorite trees, and I like visiting this particular tree because it's an old man of the forest, a giant of its kind, and the boer beans have started to flower already, and this old man is a boer bean, and I'm hoping that this year he puts on a better show than he did last year. Last year he put on a dismal performance, and I was so hoping that he'd put on a nice show, but he obviously was harbouring his strength, knowing that there was a tough season ahead, and sometimes old trees do that. They don't, some years they flower, some years they don't, some years they push out a lot of flowers, other years they don't. I haven't been working here for long enough to realize what it is. I haven't observed enough of these trees, these comings and goings of the seasons, to be able to tell you exactly why I feel that this is. I just have noticed it as a phenomenon that occurs. And there's our old friend growing on top of the termite mound. in the distance.